Have you ever been playing Pizza Tower and thought, wow, this Peppino guy sucks and I hate him. I really wish I was playing as any of the other characters in this game instead. Well, if that applies to you, first of all, why are you being so mean to Peppino? And second of all, allow me to introduce you to Pizza Tower Chef's Kiss, a mod that adds 6 brand new playable characters to Pizza Tower. The first public demo for this mod released right around Christmas of last year and promised to provide a whole bunch of new features, levels, and even boss fights with quality comparable to that of the base game. In this video, I'll be taking a deep dive into all that this mod has to offer, testing every character, gimmick, and feature in order to truly determine if this mod is a worthy expansion to Pizza Tower. Before we get started though, I'd like to quickly remind you to subscribe if you enjoy these mod reviews. My upload schedule isn't the best, as you can probably tell, so by subscribing you can ensure that you'll always see whenever I post a new video. With that said, let's start by looking at Chef's Kiss's main selling point, the characters.
Give me something to dance to.
Before we can talk about the multiple playable characters that this mod adds, we first need to actually unlock all of them. Since this demo is Christmas themed, all of the characters are unlocked by finding their corresponding Christmas gifts, each hidden in one of the game's main levels. To start, the first gift is a pair of matching sweaters for Gustavo and Brick, and it's located in this pit in Peppino's tutorial. The next gift, a mirror, obviously belongs to the very narcissistic Pepperman, and it can be found along the main path in Pizzascape. The 10-gallon hat found at the end of the first wiener section in Fast Food Saloon is Vigilante's gift, and the mystery present found by climbing up to this area near the beginning of Gnome Forest unlocks the noise. For the final 2 gifts, we have a smelly sock and oh shit, and a single dollar and don't make a sound belonging to Fake Peppino and Mr. Stick respectively. Every time you collect a present, it will be placed under a giant Christmas tree in this secret room in the hub world, and once you find all of the gifts, something really cool happens that I actually can't talk about until later in the video. For now, I'd like to take a bit of a closer look at all of the new playable characters we just obtained, starting with an iconic duo that I'm sure you'll all recognize. Since both Peppino and the Noise are pretty much unchanged from the base game, we're gonna be starting with a set of characters who are only partially unchanged from the base game, Gustavo and Brick. Gustavo and Brick have been changed a lot and now act as a hybrid between their old and new movesets. Most of their base stats have been upgraded, with them now possessing faster acceleration, a higher max speed, and even an upgraded double jump and wall bounce with less delay and the added benefit of retaining your speed when you hit the ground. In terms of their old moves, the ground pound, spinning punch, and rat kick are all still usable, although the latter 2 are now bound to different buttons. The rat kick in particular has been moved to the mod's new dedicated 4th button, meant specifically for each character's special moves, and this button also doubles as a recall Brick button for whenever she's away from Gustavo. In terms of new moves, there are a lot of minor traversal options that have been added in order to make Gustavo and Brick's playstyle better fit the game's level design. For instance, if you press grab, Brick will now lunge forward with her mouth open wide and tongue outstretched, kind of like Yoshi from Super Mario World, and just like Yoshi, this lets you eat enemies and spit them back out as projectiles. You can also press grab twice in order to make Gustavo and Brick start fight-balling, which allows them to quickly traverse terrain and destroy any enemies in their way. However, probably the most versatile move the duo has can be found if you press up and grab in midair. This causes Gustavo to shoot Brick downwards like a rocket, giving an additional height boost on top of the double jump and killing any enemies below you. Once Brick has landed on the ground, you can keep holding the grab button to have her stay put, and jumping on her will allow you to perform a super jump. You can also just straight up fly by spamming this move and the recall Brick button, which as you'll see is kind of a trend with these new characters. The final thing I'll mention is that Gustavo now has the ability to taunt even when he's not with Brick, and oh my god, he has a knife! Overall, I absolutely love how Gustavo and Brick were handled here, as they went from being a slower and more limited character to one that's pretty much on par with the rest of the cast in terms of mobility. Pepperman is the first of 3 bosses made newly playable by this mod. He's also one of only 2 characters who has a finished tutorial in this demo, and you're definitely gonna need this tutorial because this guy controls very differently from any of the other characters. To start, holding down Mach Run or pressing grab will cause Pepperman to begin a shoulder bash that can destroy enemies and metal blocks. You can also press down while shoulder bashing at any time in order to slide along the ground, and unlike Peppino's roll, you can still break metal blocks in this state. In terms of vertical movement, Pepperman has a double jump and a very floaty wall bounce, which although less powerful than the noises, is benefited by being more controllable and not losing height over time. He's also able to perform a move called the Lariat Spin, which when activated gives him a large height boost while maintaining his horizontal speed. While spinning, you can easily plow through enemies, and by bouncing off a wall you can even turn around while keeping your speed in the other direction. Pepperman additionally has several options to choose from when maneuvering downwards, ranging from a dive roll that can bounce off walls to a drop dive similar to Peppino's, and finally a ground slam that can also chain into an instant Mach 3, a high bounce, or even a super jump. On top of all of that, he can gain infinite height by simply alternating drop dives and lariat spins, which means we already found another character in this mod that can fly. Honestly, out of all the characters in this mod, Pepperman is probably the one that I'm worst at controlling, so I'm not gonna necessarily say if he's better or worse when compared to the others. His moveset is pretty complex, so there's definitely a lot of opportunity for him to be good. I just don't think he's really for me. One last thing I'll mention though is that Pepperman probably has my favorite super taunt in the entire mod, as when activated it causes him to splash paint on the screen and convert any nearby enemies into the little painting creatures from his boss fight. Most of the new characters in this demo have a similarly unique super taunt with equally useful effects, but something about Pepperman's big dumb grin just makes his my favorite by far. Let's go ahead and move on to the next playable boss, the Vigilante. This guy has a completed tutorial just like Pepperman, and his moveset, while a bit smaller, is arguably even more complex. Vigilante's base moveset has many tools that allow him to fly across levels while also plowing through anything in his way. To start, pressing grab makes him shoot his signature revolver, with each shot killing enemies and giving Vigilante a bit of recoil that lets him hover in the air for a bit while maintaining horizontal speed. He also has another gun in the form of his SMG, which he can pull out to rain hellfire on enemies below, as well as perform a big jump that breaks metal blocks. In terms of vertical mobility, he has a wall cling that lets you slide up and down walls freely, and a dive that bounces off walls, essentially letting you both travel downwards and turn around quickly. While these all help with general movement, Vigilante's most dynamic tool comes in the form of his dynamite. By holding the shoot button, you can pull out a stick of dynamite, and by then pressing any of your movement keys, you can change the direction you intend to release it. Once you stop holding the button, Vigilante will throw the stick of dynamite, and depending on which direction you throw it in, it can have drastically different outcomes. Throwing it either up or to the sides lets you use the dynamite as a projectile, with the explosion being able to destroy enemies, metal blocks, and even typically indestructible objects like rats. However, throwing it down instead allows Vigi to explode himself with the dynamite, giving him a massive boost of height while still maintaining most of his forward momentum. Oh yeah, and you can also do this in the air, meaning that we have yet another character who can just straight up fly in this mod. Additionally, if you hold down the dynamite button while running, you can charge up a super jump, which you can adjust mid-air and even cancel out of. All of this combines to create a character that's basically a jack of all trades and is able to navigate most types of terrain with relative efficiency. Our fourth and final playable boss, Fake Peppino, is by far the most busted character in this entire mod. His entire moveset is basically built specifically to let him maintain momentum while literally just flying over any obstacles in his way. Once you start playing this character, you'll quickly realize that most of his moves are essentially just Peppino's moves, but with a twist. For instance, his Mach Run is very similar to Peppino's, having 4 stages and giving him the ability to wall run. However, Fake Peppino also has the ability to run down walls and even run on the ceiling, which while chaotic can definitely be useful in certain sections. Other moves like this are his grab slide, which turns you into a puddle of goop with more directional control, his super jump, which lets you jump on both the floor and the ceiling, and his crouch walk, which, Oh god. These moves are all pretty versatile and powerful, but by far Fake Peppino's most overpowered move is the frog jump. The frog jump can be activated by simply pressing jump while mock running, and it instantly gives you a massive vertical boost with little to no momentum loss in whatever direction you're running. This is already pretty good, but it gets even better if you press down, as this will cause you to instantly slam into the ground with enough speed and power to break metal blocks. The cherry on top is that after you slam, you'll instantly regain any speed you had before you jumped, and you can use this to turn around instantly by simply holding the opposite direction when you land. Oh, and if he wasn't powerful enough, this guy can also fly by literally just spamming up and grab. Yeah, Fake Peppino is absolutely broken in nearly every aspect, but that's honestly why I love him so much. Just flying through levels with this insane moveset is some of the most fun I've ever had playing a custom character for this game, and even if a lot of his moves are pretty cheesy, that doesn't really matter much to me thanks to how awesome they feel to use. The next playable character is a pretty unconventional choice in the form of Mr. Stick. This guy's moveset is heavily based off of some footage that leaked a while ago of a potential Mr. Stick update for Pizza Tower. His movement can be categorized into two main modes, grounded and flying. While grounded, Mr. Stick is pretty limited in terms of what he can do, essentially being confined to only running, jumping, and diving. However, pressing grab, bumping into a wall, uppercutting, pressing jump in the air, or pressing up and jump on the ground to launch yourself upwards will all result in Mr. Stick transitioning into his flying phase, where he essentially gains a completely new moveset. While flying, Mr. Stick is able to move in all directions at the cost of his acceleration and overall controls becoming a lot more slippery than they were before. By pressing the grab button, you can give yourself a little boost in the direction you're traveling in, and other moves like his uppercut and ground slam can be used to further offset the slipperiness and enhance your mobility in each direction. Honestly, I would be a bit more excited about Mr. Stick literally being able to fly if that wasn't already the case for every other character in this mod, but even though he's not the only character who can fly, I still think this is a pretty unique take on the concept. While he's probably the worst character in terms of raw speed, Mr. Stick is still pretty fun to mess around with, and I think the fact that he controls so differently from everyone else is enough of a reason to have him as part of the cast. While that's the end of the playable characters that we unlocked with the present hunt from earlier, there's actually one more secret playable character that's available in this demo, and the process to unlock him is much more convoluted. What you have to do first is play as Peppino wearing the sage blue outfit, and then type the Konami code on your keyboard. This should cause an image to flash on your screen before revealing the real final character of this mod, Snick the Porcupine. This guy is currently in a pretty underdeveloped state, only having about half of his moveset actually be usable, but thankfully, the devs decided to leave in this unfinished version as a little Easter egg for people who wanted to try him out. As of this demo, Snick is pretty much just a Peppino clone, with his main difference being that he's always one tile tall instead of two. In terms of unique moves, he only has a few, with his grab dash being replaced with a shorter charge attack, a body slam that causes him to bounce upwards after landing, and a super jump that's much more slippery and can be triggered in the air, which of course means that he can fly. His super jump cancel has also been changed to the taunt button, meaning that every time you cancel out of a super jump, you also do a sick trick. Oh yeah, also, I don't know how I missed this, but Snick can also do a spin dash if you hold grab and down, so that's pretty cool. The only other real thing of note for this character can be found by going into war or any other level with a gun. If you pick up the gun while playing as Snick, you'll transform into Shadow Snick, an obvious reference to Shadow the Hedgehog. As Shadow Snick, you have a gun that can shoot without causing you to slow down, which makes war surprisingly fun with this character. I'm honestly just really happy that they include Snick in this demo even though he's unfinished, and the fact that he's hidden behind a secret cheat code is amazing and the kind of thing I wish modern games would do more. With that though, we've officially seen every playable character in this demo, which means that we can finally begin to look at some of the mod's many other new additions, starting with changes to the main levels. Most of Pizza Tower's main levels have had multiple changes made to their gameplay or level design when playing as any of Chef's Kiss's new characters. To start, since this is only a demo, the vast majority of transformations for each character haven't been implemented yet. Instead, all of the new characters now have the ability to destroy rats and even gun blocks just by attacking or running into them, and all of the priests have been replaced with these rat fairies that give you the same amount of points. Certain transformations also have some more creative replacements, such as the mort hooks and fun farm being replaced with spider webs that launch you forward in a similar trajectory. Of course, not all of the transformations were scrapped for this demo, and the few ones that are finished genuinely look really good. My favorites are probably all of Pepperman's transformations. He's just such a goofy looking guy, I love him. Also, in terms of Gnome Forest and Pig City's swap segments, only Gustavo and Brick are finished, and they just have you switch over to playing as Peppino in those sections instead. These Peppino swap segments are actually pretty cool, as in each level you receive a scroll giving you temporary access to a new move. Gnome Forest gives you access to the Big Punch, which launches Peppino into the air before sending him crashing down with a big punch that kills enemies. Also, this means Peppino can fly now, deal with it. Pig City on the other hand gives Peppino access to Kung Fu, an attack that launches him forward in a large arc that demolishes any enemies in his way. On top of the changes made to the transformations, certain areas and main levels have been edited or changed completely in order to make it easier for every character to navigate them smoothly and maintain a combo while doing it. This is handled pretty well most of the time, with only small changes being made to one or two structures in the room, but in the case of certain areas it can be pretty noticeable and not necessarily in a good way. I understand the idea behind changing these parts to be more balanced for all of the new characters, but when it gets to the point where the level design is completely unrecognizable from the original, it's hard to say whether it's an improvement or not. Of course, this is simply a demo and all of these design choices are subject to change, so for now I'll just say that the changes to each level are mostly positive and generally make them easier to navigate with the new characters. Hey, I was just playing through John Gutter and I noticed that this part of the wall is missing. I wonder what's down here. Wait, is that a pizza coin? These are pizza coins, a brand new collectible added in this mod that's obtainable through several different methods. To start, there are 3 pizza coins in each level, except for Refrigerator, which only has 1 for some reason, and they're hidden similarly to the star coins in New Super Mario Bros. Many of these coins are placed in the most obscure corners of the level, so you'll definitely have to go out of your way if you want to find them all. There are even multiple coins located in entirely new sections, such as this coin in golf that has its own tiny course to go along with it. Admittedly, some of these new areas are a bit hit or miss in terms of level design, but overall these coins are pretty well implemented and help make the levels feel fresh even if you've already played them hundreds of times. On top of that, you can also get coins for completing achievements and obtaining S or P ranks on stages and bosses, which is cool because there's now an actual incentive to go for them other than just for getting 101%. Now at this point, you're probably wondering where we're even supposed to spend all of these coins we just collected. Well, if you take a look around each floor in the hub world, you'll now be able to find a custom pink door, and through this door is the brand new Noisette's Cafe and Gift Shop. This area is split into 2 main parts, the dresser and the shop itself. The dresser is located right next to the shop's entrance, and interacting with it brings up a custom menu showcasing the character you're currently playing as. Here, you can switch between your unlocked characters by scrolling left and right, and scrolling down allows you to change your color palette just like the smaller dressers in the hub world. However, the main attraction of this area is located all the way to the far right side of the room. Here, you'll find Noisette standing behind a counter, and if you talk to her, you'll be able to access the brand new item shop. This item shop is the only place where you can spend your hard-earned pizza coins and is home to most of the mod's unlockable content. It's split into 2 main sections, labeled items and clothing respectively. The clothing section is the more straightforward of the two, allowing you to buy alternate color palettes for each of the playable characters, with these palettes costing 5 pizza coins to unlock. The items section, on the other hand, is where Noisette sells a variety of different items, each of which are permanent and unlock extra content for the mod. Once purchased, the majority of these items allow you to enable alternate movesets for certain characters in the pause menu. There are a total of 7 of these types of items split across multiple playable characters, and each one provides an entirely new way to play the game. The first 2 items are for Peppino, and they allow you to use two of his older moves, Karate and Breakdance. Karate basically gives you access to both the Big Punch and Karate movesets from the Gustavo swap segments in Pig City and Gnome Forest. Breakdance on the other hand is a burst movement attack that can kill enemies, which initially doesn't seem all that powerful. However, this attack has two hidden quirks that make it much better than it seems, with the first being that using Breakdance and diving twice in quick succession will speed you up to Mach 4 almost immediately, and the second being that if you use Breakdance before colliding with a wall, it'll cause you to turn around without losing any speed. Vigilante only gets a single item, and it allows him to perform a charge shot by holding down the fire button on his pistol. This is pretty much just a straight upgrade to his moveset, as being able to choose when to shoot a bunch of small bullets or a single big bullet can make both regular levels and boss fights a lot easier. The remaining items are for the noise, probably to make up for the fact that his base moveset was basically unchanged by the mod. The first noise item allows you to use his infamous pogo stick and jetpack. These are once again taken from the early Pizza Tower demos, as the noise used to have a unique moveset primarily centered towards using a pogo stick to gain speed that you could then release using his jetpack. This moveset is mainly remembered for being extremely clunky and overall not that great, but I honestly find a bit of funny charm in it, so I'm glad it's included here. The three other noise items, Noise Bombs, Noise Spin, and Super Crusher, only add a single move to the Noises kit, with Bombs allowing you to throw Noise Bombs in any level, Spin replacing your grab with a spin that can damage enemies, and Super Crusher allowing you to perform a Super Crusher jump that creates a shockwave once you land. The last two items function a bit differently than all the others and are probably the coolest things you can buy in this entire shop. The first item is called the Doi's Curse, and its description simply tells you to not buy it at all costs. Well, good thing I can't read. After buying and activating the item, you might be a bit confused when nothing actually changes with the Noise's moveset. That's because this item actually only works if you wear the real Doi's clothing, and once you equip this outfit, you'll be transformed into the Doi's. Well, kinda. See, this item is pretty strange, as it basically gives you a weird combination of Peppino's moveset with the Noise's super jump and physics. There's also a slight change to your moveset while in boss fights, as you now throw out exploding rocks instead of bombs. These rocks have some weird physics and can actually damage you if you're not careful, which is pretty fitting for the Doi's. This is probably about as close as we're gonna get to an actual Chef's Kiss playable Doi's, so if you're sad that he's not included in this mod, then you can at least play with this. This final item is the random janitor key, and while it may seem useless at first, it's actually used to unlock what is quite possibly the coolest unlockable in this entire mod. If you break through this wall in the hub world, you can find a dark room with a large green door resembling a safe at the very end. After buying the key, this door is now unlocked, allowing us to see that it's actually the entrance to a brand new level. This is John Cash, one of Chef's Kiss's 3 entirely unique custom levels. It seems like this level was inspired by the level shown in the leaked Mr. Stick footage from a while back, as it has a similar maze-like design and several of the same gimmicks. As soon as you enter the level, a 7-minute timer begins ticking down, and if you don't beat the level before the timer ends, you lose immediately. In order to unlock the exit, you have to find 3 of these switches located in different rooms around the level, all the while collecting as much money as you possibly can. There are also several unique gimmicks in this level, including this goblin guy that gives you 3,000 points if you collect him, but also takes around a minute off of your timer. This level can definitely be pretty tricky to navigate when you're playing for the first time, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty fun. The next of this mod's new levels can be found if you go back to the Christmas room I mentioned at the very start of this video. If you've already unlocked all of the characters, you'll notice a new door has appeared leading directly into the Christmas tree. This door places you inside a dark hallway, and at the very end of the hallway is the level entrance to Chef's Kiss take on the classic Pizza Tower level, Strongcold. Strongcold is a level that originated from Pizza Tower's Xmas demo, and it's basically just a snowy version of Blood Sauce Dungeon where you travel up instead of down. With fun gameplay, a couple of unique gimmicks, and even a boss fight with the noise at the end, Stronghold has always been one of the best scrapped levels in my opinion, so I was very happy to see it brought back for this demo. This iteration of Stronghold retains all of the elements of the level that made it so great, while also adding new gimmicks and bringing the level design up to the standards of the final game. The main gimmicks in this version of the level include patches of ice which cause you to slip forward if you step on them, spiky creatures that damage you if you touch them, and both these clouds of air and pools of ice water that freeze you into an ice block when you touch them. The aesthetics of the level are just as good as the original, with Christmas decorations scattered throughout and some of the main enemies like the pincers and anchovies having completely unique skeletal variants. During pizza time, you even get to escape with Santa Claus alongside all of the mod's other playable characters in a similar scenario to the crumbling tower of pizza. Upon beating the level, your reward is getting to see some beautiful art of everyone happily enjoying their Christmas presents along with 3 free pizza coins. Overall, I think this level is the perfect addition to this Christmas themed demo and a real treat for fans of the older demos like me. Now if you played this mod already, you may be a bit confused at this point. After all, John Cash and Strongcold were the only 2 levels that are actually accessible in the demo, but I said earlier that there are 3 levels total. Well, you see, there is actually one more new level that this mod adds, but it's not accessible in the traditional sense. Pizza Tower has a debug console that you can access by enabling debug mode in the Steam launcher, and if you type the command Snick challenge into this console, you'll be teleported to a completely new and normally inaccessible area. This room is basically a 1-to-1 copy of the hub world from Pizza Tower's Sage demo, only this time it's much darker and seems to be abandoned. The only thing in this room is a single glowing monitor, and if you press up on it, you can enter the final level that this mod has to offer. Welcome to Snick's Challenge. If you've never seen it before, Snick's Challenge was a level unlocked after completing all other levels in the original Sage demo. The level itself essentially just involves beating every level on floor 1 in a row under a decently strict time limit, all the while an enemy called Snick.exe is constantly chasing after you. This new version of Snick's Challenge is basically the same thing, only with updated visuals and some new features to really sell the spooky vibe of the original. Starting with the visuals, many of the sprites in each level have been recolored and remade to be full of demonic Snick imagery. Since the level is technically unfinished, only John Gutter and a bit of Pizzascape have completed visuals, but the sprites that are here actually look pretty great and really sell the feeling that Snick.exe is some evil creature that's infected all of these areas. In terms of game mechanics, we of course have Snick.exe, who just like in the original will constantly hunt you down and deal damage if he catches up to you. You can actually get rid of Snick by grabbing or running into him at max speed, but this is temporary and he'll reappear after only a second or 2. There are also these new weird spiky creatures that replace the cheese slimes in every level, adding an extra layer of difficulty as they can actually do damage if you touch them. I really like the idea of these literal hellspawn replacing regular enemies, so I hope that if they end up finishing this level in the future, they add more of these things. Once you reach the end of Bloodsauce, you have to navigate one final room before reaching the exit door, allowing you to wake from the nightmare and beat Snick's challenge. While that's the end of the mod's regular levels, there's actually another type of level that we haven't discussed at all up until this point. Boss fights. In terms of the base game bosses, most of them are unfortunately completely blocked off if you're playing as the new characters, as they haven't been properly implemented yet. However, through the use of console commands, you can actually access these bosses as every character, and among all of the regular bosses, there are also 3 completely new boss fights added by the demo. These bosses are all designed similarly to the Doys in the sense that they replace one of the main bosses when you play as that specific character, and they're all included in this demo with varying degrees of completeness. To start, the most unfinished fight by far is Pepperman's rival Clownmato. This guy is a giant tomato with clown makeup similar to the enemies in Don't Make a Sound, and he's actually based on a character from one of McPig's abandoned projects called Pizza Horror. Sadly, pretty much the only finished part of this fight is Clownmato's portrait on the versus screen, as after that you're just dropped into a normal version of the Pepperman fight. The next fight is thankfully a bit more developed, as it's against Vigilante's counterpart, the Outlaw. The Outlaw is another cheese slime cowboy just like Vigi, only this time he's green instead of the normal yellow. Now I don't know about you, but there's only one other cheese slime I know of that's green and would have a pretty good reason to become an outlaw. Anyways, in terms of gameplay, this boss is basically a modified version of Vigilante with some slightly harder attack patterns. The entire fight has a multitude of new sprites, and while most of them are just slightly altered from the Vigilante fight, some of them are unique, like the Bob and Bob cutouts being replaced with cutouts of Peppino and Vigi, as well as a new custom boss portrait which looks absolutely badass. Honestly, I really like this guy's design, and the idea of Snotty becoming a criminal due to all the abuse he suffered at the hands of Peppino is both funny and awesome at the same time. The final boss fight is actually meant to be a new opponent for the Noise, and he goes by the name of Mr. Orange. Apparently, this guy was in development since all the way before the Noise update, but since that update added its own Noise replacement in the form of the Noise, this boss was unfortunately scrapped. It really is a shame too, as this guy is honestly a straight upgrade from the Noise fight in almost every aspect. As soon as you enter the fight, you'll probably notice how different of a setting this is compared to the Noise or Noise's arenas. Mr. Orange is a repairman living in a landfill, so the boss arena reflects this, with piles of garbage and discarded machinery, a large Mr. Orange themed mech, and his own repair shop all visible in the background. His attacks really lean into the fact that he's a mechanic, with most of them basically just being the Noise's attacks but recreated with whatever scraps of metal he could find lying around. All of this is combined with some amazing character animation to create a boss with pretty much the polar opposite personality of the Noise. Having a common working man go head to head with a rich movie star is honestly such a cool idea, and it's one of the main reasons why I prefer this fight over the Noise. Once you finish off Mr. Orange's first health bar, the giant mech in the background will move in closer, filling up the entire background just like the Noise balloon in the original fight. Depleting his second health bar will lead to him pulling out a rocket launcher and aiming it straight at your face, but thankfully before he can use it, he gets carried away by Noisette and the fight ends with us victorious. Now you may be thinking that we've seen everything the mod has to offer since we finished looking at all the characters, collectibles, and levels, but there's actually still one last big addition in this demo that we need to talk about. If you open the console one last time and type in the command Hardmode, you'll now have access to the real final challenge of Chef's Kiss. Hardmode is exactly what its name implies, as it gives you several large handicaps that make playing through levels much more difficult. The first of these handicaps becomes obvious as soon as you enter a level, as you now have a limited number of hit points you can take until you straight up die. This typically wouldn't be that big of a deal, but hard mode also has the added challenge of making it so enemies don't get scared of you unless you're running at Mach 4 speed. This makes certain enemies like Fork Knights a million times more annoying to deal with, as for most scenarios, instead of just plowing through them, they now act as brick walls that will demolish your very limited health. However, the main threat in this mode is this timer at the bottom of the screen that starts as soon as you enter the level. Once this timer runs out, an enemy called the Pizzamancer will spawn and start flying towards you just like Pizza Face. If he touches you, he does 1 damage and causes the timer to reset, so your only options to defend yourself are to either outrun him or parry him with a well-timed taunt. If you manage to make it to pizza time, the Pizzamancer will spawn automatically and stay active for the remainder of the level, with parrying him now only causing him to be stunned for a second or two. All of these elements combine to create a genuinely difficult challenge that requires you to completely rethink how you approach most levels, especially if you try to go for a P rank. In addition to the gameplay changes, hard mode also changes the backgrounds in each level to look more menacing and ominous, which combined with the amazing hard mode OST really helps encourage the player to lock in. This mode is genuinely incredibly fun, and I found myself actively wanting to still play it even after I had gotten all of the footage I needed for this video. While it isn't perfect, hard mode is undoubtedly a great penultimate challenge for this mod, and I hope it can be properly finished alongside the full mod sometime in the future. And with that, I think we've thoroughly explored Pizza Tower Chef's Kiss. I could honestly sit here for hours just showcasing every single unique visual, stage gimmick, and gameplay tweak that this mod adds, but if I talked about it all, my upload schedule would be even worse than it already is, so I'm gonna have to end it here. If you really want the full Chef's Kiss experience, I highly recommend downloading the demo and trying it for yourself. The link is in the description as always, and this one is genuinely worth it just because of how much replayability it adds. This demo is unbelievably promising, and I really do hope that the devs end up finishing it because I know that the final product will be absolutely amazing. Anyways, this video is already long enough without me rambling at the end, so I'll go ahead and finish up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.